What's up, everyone, and welcome down to another episode of The Vault. And I have a real special guest in today, but they're all kind of special guests. Mr. John Kevill from Warbringer.
Hey, what's up?
You know, I get a lot of, letters, or not letters, but people go on the internet and tell me, leave comments, and a lot of people were waiting for me to get Warbringer on into The Vault, so I'm glad you came in.
Oh, hell
Finally,
yeah.
This is going to be great. So for all you fans that have been saying get some Warbringer in there, well, they're here. So here we go. So what's happening, bro? How are you?
Well, first off, honor and pleasure to be on this show with you.
Thanks,
you're
man.
You're a
Thanks,
guy
man.
I started my band listening to. So,
That's
awesome.
awesome.
It's just you can't lose sight of that stuff, and you gotta let yourself enjoy it. You
Exactly.
Can't get to
But
where
that's
that
the things
where
about
that
it.
doesn't get you stoked. I want to go high five myself at 20. You go through a time portal and be like, dude, you did it.
But I'm the same way. It's
Yeah.
like Exodus is really fortunate at getting to play with a lot of our heroes, people that we Iron Maiden, whoever, we played Judas Priest, we played with everybody, and those are all the guys. So I feel the same way when I'm sharing the stage with, God, we played with Motorhead a million times, and of course all the thrash bands from the day, from Metallica to Slayer to Anthrax and Megadeth, everybody, had my blood with Testament. So, I mean, everybody, the incestual thing that it is, which is kind of good because it's made us all a very tight-knit community, I must say. Mm-hmm. So, good to have you in. We want to talk some Warbringer today. We were going to talk to John about, kind of where you got in, because you really didn't start the band, right?
I am the founding member.
Oh, you are the only founding member.
I'm Adam Carroll joins like a month in, but it's pretty much starts with me, who has no musical background. I grew up
because you didn't have any musical background. If you listen to music, you have musical background.
Okay, I never had played music in any capacity. I'll put it that way. And I just at a certain point, so kind of me, my upbringing, I grew up in Moore Park, California. It's a middle upper class suburb. It's in Ventura County, a little north of LA. I was born in San Francisco in 1986. Make of that what you will.
86.
Yeah.
The year I joined Exodus.
Well, there you have it. So maybe it's I wonder if this stuff was in my blood, because I was really drawn to thrash metal, and I can't quite explain myself specifically why, other than I hear the sound and I love it. But I guess my origins into heavy music, my family was like conservative, Christian, white, middle class, suburbia. So that's my life when I'm growing up. And nobody I know listens to metal at all. No one in my family does, and it's kind of
what about like when you were at school? Is that where you got it from, or no really?
Nobody at my school. Where it started, and what I did get from school is, and this is the era of like spike hair, frosted tips. So I'm in high school in like the late 90s, early 2000s, middle school, high school, and that's where you start getting into sort of the last like form of heavy music that was on the radio in our country, which was the late 90s nu metal. So that was my starting point. That's like friends at school listened to that. I had my phase with that.
Well, like Rob Zombie and
Korn, Limp Bizkit,
Limp Bizkit,
Pink, Papa Roach,
right,
Linkin
Korn,
Park,
right, sure.
Disturbed, the entire.
Right,
So basically, I went to Ozfest 2001, and Black Sabbath was headlining, and I had seen the day of the 2001 Ozfest bands. You can look at the lineup; it was very definitive of that era. And then I hear Black Sabbath, and I hear the riffs of Iomi, and so I go out, I sort of like. I had been only listening to heavy music of like the late 90s, and then I went all the way back to the 70s and kind of worked up from there. Black Sabbath was my starting point, and I think that's about as good in terms of what I'd call true metal. It's subjective, but then what I'd call it. Yeah.
So as a kid, what did you listen to music at all? Say you're 11, 12, 13 years old. Were you listening to radio music? Were you listening to Eminem? Were you listening to other things? Was it always heavy? I mean, you came from a Christian background, so
yeah,
you're not listening to it in the house.
I'm not religious, but I was raised this way. But what I did, I guess, I had a couple things. I had an uncle who was from like Berkeley, San Ramon, who would give me cool records. So he was into a lot of the like classic Americana, early rock and roll, but he didn't even like heavy metal, but he did like the Ramones and Motorhead. So I had
he liked music that had an edge to it anyway.
Right. Or certain types of edge. He liked like the punk rock-ish flavor, but not the metallic flavor. But I got some of that, and I just knew since I was a kid, I thought electric guitars were cool. I don't know how else. And at the time I decided this, I don't think I had even heard music with electric guitars other than like maybe the
I was the same way.
the Power Rangers theme. But I just knew the idea of just like
The tone.
Yeah, just something about that
The
like makes my
attack.
hair stands up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
was the same way.
so I got into the music that was most accessible, that had some, that had distorted guitars in it, which was the late 90s stuff, and then kind of worked backwards where I got into Black Sabbath, and along with it, like classic hard rock heavy bands, your Zap, AC/DC, etc., hard rock of the 70s, and then kind of worked up, and from there I got into bands in a weird order, because I didn't have like a group of friends or anyone telling me what to listen to. I kind of then I was good with computers when I was a kid. I was a pretty nerdy kid. And so I was one of the earlier...
Most musicians are, John. Most of us are.
Yeah. So I was digging through the internet, and kind of from working off of like the starting point of like Black Sabbath and like Iron Maiden or something, I got into a whole bunch of other stuff. At first, really heavily into like Euro power metal, and then kind of slowly got into stuff with like harsher vocals, and then full-blown old school thrash. So for instance, thanks to the internet of the early 2000s, I heard shit like Exhumer Possessed by Fire, which is a sort of like of the BC tier of thrash metal, worthy record, but a cool record, but still, like, I heard that before I had heard Rain and Blood. So I heard shit kind of out of order. I heard my Metallica before this. Slayer actually came really late, even though it's like I fucking worship Slayer, classic Slayer pretty much. So
Sure.
yeah, so I kind of got into a bunch of stuff and was sort of forming my own taste very much. And then I went to a couple concerts. I saw Maiden in L.A. It was Dance of Death Tour, 2001. I believe
They were just kind of coming back with Bruce at that time, kind of, right? Wasn't it? And they were just, that was
Brave
2001.
That was Brave New World, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
they
must
were
have seen
just-
it. It must have been a couple years later.
Yeah.
Because, but I think those two records have a number of really solid songs on them,
Yeah,
too.
they do, actually.
But so I got, and through Maiden, then kind of that was sort of the floodgate, because now I'm into twin guitar harmonies and like epic operatic vocals of Dickinson. And it just went from there. And at some point, and I started a band. None of us had really any experience. It was, it was called Onslaught for like all of a minute, which some people will never forgive us
So
for.
you found out there was a band from England called Onslaught?
I talked to the
or
band.
Australia,
They're,
right?
they're English. They're from Bristol.
English, that's
yeah.
right.
It's,
English,
Power
yeah,
from
yeah.
Hell, The Force.
Onslaught.
Yeah. But we were kind of. I
They had a guy on a
them about
skateboard
this.
was their mascot guy in a little
Yeah.
cross thing. Yeah, I remember
so
them.
we had that for a minute, but we didn't know like the pantheon of metal. We were kids like in the process of getting into this, and each one of us in the early band, myself, John Locks, and Adam Carroll's still there, were kind of all like the misfits in our respective towns who were the only people we knew that were into this. So like I lived in Moore Park, John Locks lived in Newbury Park, which is like half an hour away, and then Adam lived in Ventura, which is about half an hour from that. So I kind of went out throughout the county, drove a zillion hours to just like get to a practice every
All
Friday.
of us did.
Yeah.
All of us did. Especially where we're filming this now. Chuck Billy and Phil Demmel, myself, grew up here.
Yeah.
But where you're going to from here is where it was going on, and that's another. You're 45 minutes from Slim's right now.
Yeah,
About
that's
40
if the
minutes.
traffic's
So
merciful.
for us to get from here out there, even for rehearsal, that was every day. So we were used to that. We knew exactly. It's part of the. It's part of the test, bro.
I know.
It's part of the being a soldier. You know what I mean? It's part of the initiation, I guess.
You gotta handle it. Well, because you don't just start a band and suddenly be amazing. It takes a lot of work, and to play to the standards of like really good heavy metal, it's high level musicianship, I think. So for these kids that have never played before, it took us so long. We rehearsed for like 4 to 6 months before we could finish getting through the first song we wrote. It's not a song that made it to any demo or record. It's not that great. It was called Death and Glory. But it took us 4 to 6 months to be able to finish playing through a song. And we grinded it. So the start was really slow. But I had this kind of feeling from seeing Iron Maiden, the other concert at the period that really struck me as I saw Metal Church. They had Ronnie Monroe on vocals at the time. They opened with "Start the Fire" from the Dark album, and he just opened with like "Yeah!" And I was like, "Oh, okay, this rules," And that concert, it was like the day after Dimebag Darrell had been slain on stage, and so that had happened. And so this was the time that I was, I'd say I was 18, 19, and this was like a really new, exciting world for me, and I was finding out about a new band I loved like every single week. So it was really exciting, and honestly, I kind of wish I could go.
Because I mean, I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but a little bit of a late bloomer when it comes to metal, that sort of thing, and to be as I think established as you have kind of put yourself in with your band, if that makes any sense, because you kind of put your head down and kind of nailed it hard, and it wasn't long after that period you were actually playing alongside. I wasn't in the band at that time, but I know the history. You were playing with Exodus and bands like that.
January
at that time.
2008. So the Warbringer's first practice ever was November 2004, and I think our first show was the summer of 2005. No, it had to be a little later. I graduated high school 2005. So it would have been December, end of 2005, and then the following year, where we started up and started playing our first show, shitty local club. Nobody's there, but
you know what?
Yeah.
What
do you expect? Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it has to start somewhere.
Damn right.
That's with everything.
No, and who there's no attachment to the name before the name exists and does anything. But we were really lucky, and mostly we just worked really hard. We we had the early shuffle of random people we could find until we eventually got the first album lineup.
With everybody, man.
Yep.
There's that doesn't escape anyone. And still doesn't for what it's worth, you know what I mean? But as long as the mentality there and the core is there. But I mean, Gary did a record for you guys. He produced a record for you guys in 2009.
Yes.
So here you are, less than 3 years later, you're hanging with your heroes. You know what I mean? You're working with your heroes. They're considering you. They're, working with your work, basically. And I mean, that's got to feel some. Talk about that. Talk about how that feels, because that's not a long period. I know guys that have been doing this for 30 fucking years, and they get a chance to open for Exodus, and they'll hear, oh my God, you guys just said, thank you for letting us open for you. And it's like, how long you guys been? Oh, 35 years now. It's
about as long as you have.
Wow. And it's like, wow. Yeah. And, thank you. And we appreciate that. But, shit, John, that's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? You figured, 04, you're 06, you're around really starting to gig. By 08, 09, you're
putting out records.
You're hanging out with the heavy hitters a little bit. You know what I mean? But rubbing elbows a little bit. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, that was really wild because, like I said, we were really starting the band, trying to figure out how to play music in the first place, and I think what people responded to in the early days of us was just we were really young. And B, we were going at it with real gusto. And C, we were all, by this point, by the time we're actually in the band playing, we're all pretty big nerds about the past of heavy metal. And we all wanted to find out the coolest shit that had ever been recorded, the underground gems, and every great thing that anyone had ever made in the field of heavy metal. And we, and what was really popular around the time we started the band, the new metal thing had subsided, and we were in the swoop hair metalcore phase. And around
swoop hair metalcore.
Yeah, my favorite.
Damn, I missed that.
No, I don't. But anyways,
no, I said I missed it. You're like, well, I missed that phase.
Oh no. Well, if you lived in suburbia in early 2000s, you did not miss that phase.
No, I guess not.
And every other band that all your friends and every other band you could play with on the very local level was that. So our playing old thrash was in many ways a rejection of that. We're like, this breakdown after a breakdown, that's not fucking metal. You need the fast part to build up to the breakdown. That's how you do it. They already figured this out in the 80s. You should know better,
Exactly.
Right. So that's kind of how we felt, and we were kind of...
Well, that's kind of how some of us old schoolers felt when we listened to that shit and went
I know.
Is this where metal's going? Really? Is this what we did? This is our legacy? And it was like, and I get it too.
Yeah.
So
So the Warbringer starting out being, War Without End is as much flying the flag of this is an old school thrash record, with the tank and the fire and the everything,
That's old school thrash.
It sure is. We're very much, we got panned at the time we were 19 for not being super original. I wouldn't say my first record's super original. I wouldn't. But it was really energetic and raw and just vicious and violent and had nothing modern in it, basically, or almost nothing, especially that first record. And so I think we stuck out because of that and just the sheer, I wasn't, and the band wasn't really tight at the time, but we were really savage. So,
if it wasn't any good or actually had any tailwind to it at all, it wouldn't have gotten anything. You know what I mean? There's a million bands out there trying to hammer the same hole. You know, they're trying to bang the same hole, and it's like, I heard you. You know, I heard you guys. I know. I know you. You've done. What you've done. You've definitely pushed yourself up on a tier, and I mean, again. We did Japan with them. What was it, 18? And I was Exodus, Testament, Warbringer. You know what I mean? That's a great 2 days. You know what I mean? It's a killer 2 days. We had nice parties backstage. They were fun.
Fantastic,
you know what I mean?
Man.
I love Japan. They're so killer. So, to me, I mean, you won the game right there. You know what I mean? If nothing ever happened again in life, right? I mean, fuck, you flew to Japan. You got to play with some, with people that influenced you and had a great time and on the same stage and on the same level. I mean, I look at, everything I do and everything I get to do. I'm very fortunate. You know what I mean? It's like, I love to play with my hero friends. I love to play with, with the Saxons and, guys that I came up listening to, Priest and Maiden and Scorpions. I love to be on the same bills with bands like that, you know what I mean? Whoever it is. And I think, to me, that's worth more than the money, John. You know what I mean? It's definitely worth more to me getting, you know what I mean? There's not much money as it is, let alone it's just the whole rush of, man, I'm doing this alongside of this icon that's been doing this, and then I'm considered in the same breath. And I think, to me, that's almost everything.
I mean, you don't start this, if you want a great business plan, starting a metal band isn't it. But if you want to have a shitload of fun in life, and if you're passionate about metal, I can only recommend it. So what you pretty much said is very much the... and there's plenty. Every life you can choose has ups and downs. You named the ups, and that's why I'm here. That's what keeps me here. And goddamn it, I believe it, man. I'm really on board with that.
It's got to be that way. It's like, that's what I'm saying. People ask me all the time, "Do you still enjoy doing it?" It's like, if I didn't love doing it, I wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Why am I going to do it? For what reason would you inconvenience yourself? Because there's so many inconveniences to the show that is the fruit, the nectar is the gig, and the music. And there's so much more to it than that. I mean, the time in the airport, the time on the plane, the time through customs, just to get to that gig. You know what I mean?
If you're calling the good part where you're on the stage and the crowd is cheering, you get to rock as you hope to. It's like a citrus fruit where the citrus part's this big and the rind's like that,
Yeah, exactly. It's the truth.
So
it's the truth.
There's a lot around it. But, I don't even hate all the peripheral stuff. I really enjoy some of the travel. I like some of the people I get to meet.
I don't mind any of that other. I hate the airport.
I hate the airports. I think
fucking hate it. How could do you not sleep the night before you leave? The night before, if I know I'm leaving the next day, I wake up 100 times. And everything I'm thinking is like, oh, God. What seat am I with? Fucking you just stupid shit like that.
Just dreading the experience.
Just oh my God! All right, I gotta call Uber and get Uber here to take me to the airport. And then I gotta go get in the line. And I gotta go dump my shit on. And I just think about that, and it's like, why can't they already invent teleportation so it's so much more easier on all of us?
The first
Star Trek, they had it in Star Trek, damn it, right?
After like the clandestine military special forces, the next people to adopt teleportation would be touring bands,
I mean, just come on. Let's get me there and back, quick.
Yeah, right.
Get me out of there.
Yeah, so I think what caught people when we started, though, was just like that you had the aforementioned swoop hair metalcore where every band was breakdowns on breakdowns, and I think that's why they called the thrash revival around 2007, 2008 when our first record came out. We were right there with the kind of first wave of releases that got out of new bands that were doing that. And I think that really caught people's attention just because it kind of bucked every trend in metal from like 1992 to about 2008, which was everything gets more clinical, everything gets more precise. You kind of lose that like punk raw edge that thrash had.
It was gone.
Yeah, it was completely...
Because the whole thrash thing, that was it. I mean, everybody asked me, thrash music is the rawness and ferocity of punk rock and the intricacies of hard rock, and that's or British new wave, that kind of thing, and it's put together. By the 90s, that was all washed and gone, and it was just a break and then a breakdown, and that was your heavy part, and it's like, and there was no leads. Lead guitar had just Vai. People like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, they're like, who? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I came from that era, you know what I mean? Where everybody was like, you know, everybody could shred, you know? So I felt it, but, you know, bands like yourself and Hatchet, you know, and Havoc and Hatred, the 3 H's,
Yeah.
you've kept the, the torch alive. There's such Power Trip, good thrash. I mean, good
Heavy
new
riffs.
younger band,
Yeah.
heavy riffs, you know what I mean? So I'd have to say it's in a good way right now, definitely, don't you think?
Yeah, and what I think brought that about is basically that this music provides something that's like a core reason you would listen to heavy music in the first place. The sheer just energy, adrenaline, aggression, the way it just gets you pumped is like nothing else. So I was thinking, we were driving up to the Bay, and I was trying to explain to my wife what makes Bay Area thrash different from other thrash. I'm like, this is kind of the foundational scene of the genre. And to me, you know, I'm from LA, but to me, it's like first off, the Bay Area bands don't go the way of the German ones, where it's like kind of pushing towards what would later become death metal. That's a sound that Warbringer taps into. But here, I'd say it's a certain there's a certain kind of like mosh groove and a certain kind of like rough and gritty, but not yet like extreme vocal. It just sits in a really cool spot in the evolution and story of metal, because it's like still got all the rock and roll elements, but it's like pushing to new extremes, and it just sits in a really cool time in history.
Definitely has all of the rock and roll elements.
Yeah,
because we were all just rock and roll kids. You know, when at my age, there was a time when it wasn't called heavy metal. You know what I mean? It was. I remember they called it hard rock or acid rock in the late 70s. Like if you liked Alice Cooper or Ted Nugent, it was like, oh, that's like that acid type rock. It's like,
right.
And then metal got coined as even Zeppelin was considered kind of metal. Deep Purple, Sabbath obviously, but Rainbow, harder edge bands, UFO, but it wasn't really called heavy metal, but it was still edgy rock, hard rock, heavy rock sounds, and
right.
That's kind of what we were all brought up on. So I think that the music that we wrote exemplified what we listened to, the Ritchie Blackmore Rainbow, the Michael Schenkers and UFOs, the Ted Nugents, you know what I mean, the anything from Heart to Fleetwood Mac, but anything from Sex Pistols to Discharge, you know what I mean? So it had a good blend of it, and I think that's when the Bay Area was just very fortunate to be exposed to so much. There was so much that happened here in the 60s musically as well, so it was like there was so much to pull off of, I think. But I mean, like you said, it went down to rock and roll. Rock and roll.
And so I think, and damn right. And what I think, my kind of thinking when in early Warbringer, and still, this still drives me, is we want to be as extreme as an extreme metal band can be, while still remain keeping that the shit rocks element. Where you just want to, and where I think that what happened in the 90s and 2000s is all the extreme and heavy bands, their influences aren't rock bands, they're extreme and heavy bands.
Right.
So it's it goes through further degrees of separation, and I think the biggest thing in that regard is the song structure, because a lot of and I think this is just my taste, but I think a lot of the older rock and metal music is catchy as fuck, and the singers are always really distinctive. You have some wild vocal characters in 80s metal, but they're all characters, and whether let's use Sean Killian of Violence can be a divisive vocalist. For me, I like him because it's as soon as you hear, you know exactly who it is, and it has the feeling it has, and it's
distinctions, everything. Sure.
I used to think that every band in the early 2000s, and still I kind of think this, every band has the same singer. The guy who's wah, wah, that kind of certain register and range, and I'm like, man, at a certain point when we're starting the band, I'm like, there's 500 guys who have the same singer, 500 bands.
No, it's the truth, and it's because it's actually, and I've said this, it's not hard to do that. You can go, anybody can grab a mic and go, and anybody can do that. It's, it's kind of finding your own sound, you know what I mean? What your voice does, what influenced you and how you use it, and obviously how you can hold it, definitely.
And I kind of imagine that as almost as if I'm playing a character, and the character's not
obviously.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I do it.
Yeah.
I play the character.
And the character's it's not outside of myself, it's an aspect of myself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
definitely.
and,
Definitely.
And I just try to, like, what I've been trying to do is, like, lean as much into my own character. And so kind of, like, this aspect of myself is the really, like, pissed off, cynical, angry at the world version, which I do feel those things are. I wouldn't write this music. I try to look into that and kind of be like, what would this, like, voice of evil go and say? And what I kind of am trying to, I often now do the lyrics kind of evil from its own perspective. Like, I find... like, a lot of our stuff is, like, what if it was, like, anti-militarism, anti-this songs, but done from the perspective of, like, the military-industrial complex, like, coming down on you to take away all that is dear in the world, and kind of that voice being channeled into a song. I think that that's a really cool and, like, evil, sinister way to take what is essentially a leftist position in your music,
but I think that the character is what you're looking for, because if you don't have the character, then the vocal has no, the vocal's just about characters, everything. What I do and what you do isn't necessarily singing, you know what I mean? It's a vocal sound that's created that fits the musical content and the lyrical content that's going on there.
Yeah.
So when you hear my voice, it fits the type of music that's, and not necessarily singing, a crooning or whatever. Yeah. But it's definitely the form of what the music is all about. It needs that
gritty, snarly.
It needs it to be that character,
right?
That snarly, screamy, fucking grindy character, and to get into that, I think every singer because a guitar, you pick up a guitar, and it's you get that tone because I got that pedal and I tuned it this way, and this vocal's a whole nother world,
And that's why I love being vocal, because it's just so much like I never, I've studied some about vocal technique. I've been doing this long enough where I've taken my work seriously. But when I started, I had none of this, and it was just
nobody does.
No,
it's like the guy in the room that goes, "I can sing. Yep, nope. I don't have a guitar. I don't have an amp. Nope. I can get a PA though, and I can sing." It's like, okay. You then,
Yeah,
and then,
you're the only guy who's got the guts to go up there and, like, suck before
truth.
You don't,
it's the truth. Because
suck
you
until
could be
you
a
don't.
good guitar player or a good drummer, and people could say you're a good drummer. But what makes you out of nowhere a good singer? You don't. That takes balls, believe you. Susan can sing now, huh? I remember in the guitar class. Now you're a singer. Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look at my records.
There you go.
Bottom line, not to be arrogant.
Hey, you didn't say anything about it.
But there was many naysayers.
Yeah.
There was like,
my own mom told me I couldn't carry a tune when I was a kid. Yeah.
Mine too. Mine was like, you'll never be mount to anything. And then I got to bring her to, live record taping sold out at the Fillmore. You know what I mean? And so, sorry, Mom. Had to prove you wrong.
Hey, maybe that's a bit of a motivator. I wonder if that is for me. In my family, they're not like that.
Are they cool with this now?
Yeah, they are. They came to the show in Las Vegas
Good.
recently. Yeah, so and that was the second time she'd ever seen me out of over 1,300 shows in my career.
Wow.
Yeah, so that I had to like very much break from my family, and
right.
in some ways to do this, and it was kind of not what they wanted me to do, because I'm pretty much living as especially when we're starting out touring, we have a better operation going now. There's more money in the business.
It takes time. You have to build it up. We know this.
But I was a glorified hobo for many years.
Glorified. I know this.
Glorified. People say like great show, and then I'd go to like pass out on the floor of a van.
Right.
Great show. You guys are so awesome. Can I take a picture with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Before
can I sleep on your couch? Can you go buy me a burger?
Right. Exactly.
I know the deal.
Yeah.
Talk about the band now, John. Talk about who's in the band. How long has this lineup been, together with you?
So this lineup's been together, generally speaking, since 2015 about.
So that's good. 4 years on this. That's a good.
Best we've ever done. Yeah.
So far, same guys since when we played in. Japan, same
one alteration. So we had problems with our bass player, Jesse Sanchez, some of the professionalism and behavior, and we eventually sacked him. but we've had Chase Bryant since about 2 years ago. But pretty much it's the same lineup as the record "Woe to the Vanquished." We had in 2013 when our fourth record "Empire's Collapse" came out. This was kind of seen as an experimental record for us, and the band had sort of grinded from 2008 to 2013 basically nonstop and completely exploded and fell apart. So I thought it was the end of my life. And this lineup,
because I knew I was going to ask you about that. I knew something. I thought. Somebody one time I was like, we were doing something. I was like, get Warbringer. Like, oh, Warbringer's not even a band anymore. I'm like, what? And then
we weren't for like a year.
Then
or
about
so.
a year later, I'm like, I saw something at Warbringer's a band again. It's like, well, good. I'm glad.
It was an uphill struggle there.
Things happen, that lull period. Exodus went through that. 2 or 3 times.
It's tough to keep the momentum
this
going,
is
because
good.
especially the harder you work. But so I thought my life was over, basically, and that I was done with this, and I was going to have to go cut my losses and do something else. But I was really happy because the record we made after that, it took me 2 years-ish to really reassemble the band. There's one lineup that basically recorded nothing that I did a few international gigs with just to get the band existing again. And that, which no one from that except me and Adam are still in that, but there's 3 people that came and went in like 6 months. And that got Carlos Cruz back in. Carlos Cruz is a powerhouse of a musician, and between me, Adam, and Carlos, we had the songwriting core, and Carlos had been in the band since the 3rd record, so he had a lot of experience with what we're all about, and it helped build our sound and stuff. So that's really been the core unit that's written Woe to the Vanquished, and this 6th record, Weapons of Tomorrow, that's going to come out in 2020. So I've been really proud about that, and what makes me, and here I'll just toot my own trumpet. I am so goddamn proud of how the band fell apart, faced this adversity, came back, and made the best record of our career. Woe to the Vanquished, hands down. If anyone hasn't heard Warbringer, Woe to the Vanquished, I strongly feel Woe to the Vanquished is our best record. I don't think there's a shitty one in the bunch, but at least up to 5. We'll see how 6 goes with everyone. But that was for me a really triumphal thing. And actually, when I saw you guys in Japan, that was the fruit of that whole campaign. They built up to the point where we had gone from being on the forefront of newer thrash bands to not existing to clawing our way back to
clawing, and the word is clawing.
Damn right it is.
The word is clawing. I know it so well. Well, we did the similar thing. Exodus wasn't together for many years. And then we reconvened and did Tempo. And Tempo, to a lot of people, is the best comeback album, thrash ever. Because, it's just, I love that record. And we were very raw at that time. When we did that record, it was we were very broke. We'd been through the ringer, everybody. There was no record label there. We did that record on contingent, to see it to get a deal. And then that's when Nuclear Blast picked it up. And so there was a lot to that record, and that record kind of re-sparked everything back, although I didn't last much on that period of time after that. But
it can't keep you down, though, can you?
They kept me down for 10 years, but I was back. So
10 years short time,
So talk about the new record a little bit.
Well, the new record is going to be called Weapons of Tomorrow. It's kind of been stalled in release because we're in the process of remixing the whole thing. We released one track, Firepower Kills,
but that's good to do, to give the fans a track so there keeps them.
Well, the thing is, we released the track with the first mix we had. It got a less than stellar response, and we were kind of iffy about it. So that kind of told us, all right, so we pretty much, and I doubt the record label loves us for this, but we're hit the brakes. This is our, we just put out what we think is the best record of our career. Are we going to falter now? Hell no. We didn't fight as hard to be here now to not put out the best possible material.
Right.
So we're remixing the whole record. It's the same track, same recording, for those who aren't familiar with the studio. But it's sounding really great. We're getting stuff back. Actually, Zach Oren from Oakland here is doing the remix on it. We recorded it down in L.A. With the same setup as the last record. So that's happening. The record, material-wise, really picks up where Woe to the Vanquished left off, where it's that very rooted in thrash metal, but it goes into some extreme metal influence, some Black and Death.
That's good.
Fused in there, as well as some straight-up epic. Our favorite flavors for epic are I guess, Iron Maiden's long songs, Viking-era Bathory, Twilight of the Gods, Nordland, those kind of records, and which are really near and dear to me. And then
the 9-minute epics.
Yeah. We got one on the last record.
11 minutes.
We got 3 songs that clock in over 6 minutes on this one. So there isn't an 11-minute one here, but we got a few bigger songs, but we're still the band's still called Warbringer, and so we really spaced it out. On the last record, it was more like the side A was really Machine Gun, and the side B got more expansive, went a bunch of places. Here, it's more mixed throughout the record, and we kind of, every time we hit you with something that isn't like the hardest thing ever, the next one is.
I see.
So we're
sequenced it. You blended it quite.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we tried to make it it's a very, like, serious record. More and more, that's kind of my direction, where I'm trying to talk about, like, the sort of horror of the human condition, I guess, in a serious manner. And so there's nothing, like, really tongue-in-cheek there, and it's all supposed to be really sinister and evil. And what I've been kind of doing, too, is in my sort of relentless cynicism about humankind, I'll throw in the lyrics, like, Divinity of the Flesh from the last record had this. There's a couple bits on this where something real inspirational, it's about human potential instead. So it's like, while we live in this world of, like, lies and corruption and all of these things that we all, just the bullshit that we deal with being human beings, that there's also this amazing potential, that the way you feel when you're hearing your favorite fucking riff, or, the great composers of the past, or of, the great works of cinema or literature, all the best stuff about people, or the time that one guy helped you out when you really didn't. I try to, like, put a nod to that, too, because ultimately my music's about evil, but I'm good. So
Well, it's about all the evil on the outside that you're
correct.
singing about.
And it's me going,
it's evil.
at
it's
it,
John Evil. You're going to be John Evil Kevill from now on. I can see you're going to get there. You're going to get there. What, anything this probably will get aired in my new season in 2020. What's going on for road work? Anything in the cusp there once the record gives you?
Road work. The fact that we're remixing the whole damn record is like throwing a little wrench. It looks like we're gonna go out in the spring, and that's when we're looking right now, and we've juggled a few dates, so that's why I can't give you the greatest answer. But we're looking right now at setting stuff up around April, May, and so we're probably gonna put the release a little before then. We can kind of, because we put such the brakes on the record label, what we're trying to do now is, like, see what we can line up and and then slide the record in there right before it.
Right.
And then I think, I finished, in my personal life, I finished my bachelor's in history, and I'm taking time off from that to really do something I haven't done in a while. And I said to the powers that be, I'm like, put me on the road like I'm young again,
You're still young again.
Yeah, well, it's all right. It's all
next
relative.
Summer? Is there any festivals you guys got lined up?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. Likely we'll be in Europe.
I know
because that's what bands do.
We still in this year. We haven't got to next year yet. So
yeah. But basically, in the vaguest possible terms, look for Warbringer on tour in 2020. We will tour supporting our new record, and we're probably going to tour into the next year on it. I really think it's a strong as hell record. I was really worried with following up the last one. Whenever you make a record you're really proud of, you're like, how can I have that good of ideas again? But different.
Got it. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Where can we get any Warbringer website, merchandise, any kind of that stuff? Where can they go?
Warbringermusic.com. The record label's Napalm Records, and the website has merchandise. There's also social media. You can look at all the standard ones, and basically, if you Google it, you'll find it. There's not a lot of things called Warbringer. There's a book about Wonder Woman. God damn you for calling your book that. This is the year our record got released. But it's basically you look for it, you'll find it.
Right on.
Yeah.
John, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Good to have you, man. Warbringer, you guys, leave me some comments. Let me know. Finally, we had him in here. You wanted it. We can have you back in again. We can talk about some other stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Definitely.
I'd love to come back on. I feel like we could sit here another hour, man.
We could probably sit here for hours to go. I know we have something important to do together tonight, actually.
We do. Hey, so it will have happened, actually.
Yes, it will have happened.
Can we talk about it then?
Well, I guess we can. I guess so. Some of you guys that seen the Death Angel Warbringer Hatred Christmas show, then you got to see us do We Are the Road Crew together.
That's right. So Warbringer recorded We Are the Road Crew is a bonus track 2011, and it's one of the only covers we ever actually play live, because as Road Dogs, it speaks to us on a personal level.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so really happy to have you on the stage for that. We're going to do a trade-off thing where, probably work out the arrangement exactly after we get off the thing here. And
yes, we are definitely going to do that.
And it's real cool because I once, when I was a young boy, 2008, I got to guest on stage for Bonded by Blood. It was the Rob Dukes Exodus then.
That's fine.
Yeah, you gotta.
I love the Rob Dukes. I love singing those songs. It's awesome.
There's a lot of great songs on
Are
this.
you kidding
Very
me?
underrated.
Every time we make a set list, I'm always going, let's play this one. They're like, I don't care.
Ba-na-na.
Battle of Leonard Charge,
Ba-na-na.
Iconoclasm.
Middle riff, Iconoclasm.
I love that shit. That's great
Yeah.
stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
He did a great job, man. I'm a big fan, dude. Believe me.
Wait, dude, it's really good to see that. Yeah,
Believe me.
Some people are real bitter towards anything in their own bands.
Who cares?
No,
it's a piece of
it's a
piece of Exodus' history. What am I going to do? Try to deny it? You know what I mean? I don't look at it like that at all.
That's a good attitude. Yeah,
never have.
So, but anyway, during 2008, it's our first professional Warbringer tour. It's winter. We're on the road with X's. I got to go on stage in Hartford, Connecticut, to do Bonded by Blood. And on the record, now Gary told me this. This is something if you all listen to it. There's a weird it's like a 5 count into the verse, right? And on the record, there's that swoosh going. Yeah. And exactly where the Black Magic Nights come in. And I was like 20, I think I just turned 21. This was early 2008. And I got on there and I was so like, I'm going to save with Exodus, that I came in and I jumped in like a beat early and I stayed on it for like half the verse. And Dukes had to correct. And so they gave me and I was like, that is probably, of all my days on stage anywhere, that is the mistake I made live that I remember the most. However, they were so cool. I got to go on stage a second time in New Hampshire after fucking it up, where Gary's like,
to redeem yourself?
And I did. So
nice.
So I remember, and I always thought, it's like, man, they gave me the chance to do this. I fucked it up, and they gave me another. That was really nice. Because I had no musical background.
Come on, I fuck it up all the time. Don't even worry about that.
Oh, dude, but I care about getting it right.
Nice.
You know, I do, and that's for me more than anything.
Nice.
You know, but that was great, man.
You guys, leave me comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Warbringer. Subscribe to the channel. Share this shit, and we'll have him in soon. We'll see you guys real soon.
All right.